Anthony, anything you want to say?
No, thanks.
Anything to Gertrude's family? How did you feel today?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I have to really do is I have to thank the family throughout all the delays in this case, some of which were caused by, the lengthy investigation and then COVID. They couldn't have been more supportive. All the trauma that they went through and all they had to deal with, just really thanks to them. They supported us and the team the whole way. And secondly, of course, thanks to the attorneys and investigators on this team, Deputy District Attorney Dan Zola, Deputy Attorney General Michelle Hardick, Assistant DA Gary Scott, of course the investigators, Trooper Ed Urban and Detective Bob Lehman. They blew this case wide open. As you remember, it took a long time to figure out who committed this horrific crime, and if not for their hard work, we may never have gotten the answer.
What was
Sure. A lot of it was based on the wishes of the family. This was a traumatic experience. The delay was traumatic. They really preferred not to have to sit through a trial. I can say that the prosecution team was ready for trial. When we did the balancing act of whether it was worth pushing this to trial, given what we could get out of the plea, it's very likely that he doesn't get out of jail alive anyway. So we followed the wishes of the family. We came to a plea that everyone could live with, that we were very happy with the time being served, and so that's how we ended up where we are today.
What was this process like? Obviously this had happened coming up 9 years this Thanksgiving. What was this long process like for you guys?
I think I'd defer that question to Deputy DA Dan Zola.
Yeah, so it certainly wasn't easy. Initially, the case, I would say, could be characterized as cold for a period of 4 years. Thanks to the work of Detective Lehman and Trooper Ed Urban, they followed up on a few leads 4 years later and got us to where we needed to be. The case really broke wide open 4 years later when those two guys decided to go back to what was Anthony's previous residence. But for that visit to the residence, this case would remain unsolved. So thank you to both of my investigators on this case.
Can you go into the evidence that you guys had gotten from that situation? Obviously, some of the items in his basement ceiling and the Timberland shoes.
Yeah, we found a lot of Gertrude Price's belongings, and a lot of which we ultimately tested for DNA, and it came back to both Anthony Spudis and some other individuals related to him. And also importantly, in the basement, the pair of Timberland boots that we had previously have castings of in Gertrude's basement. We knew that whoever the perpetrator was at the time that he had entered her residence through the basement, we just had to track down those boots. When we went into that address, right where we found Gertrude Price's belongings, we also found those boots. We sent those boots out to the laboratory first for casting, comparing the similarities to the castings we had from the dust on the floor in the basement. There was a positive match there, and then we sent portions of the shoe out to the DNA laboratory, and the DNA lab confirmed that it was Anthony Spudis' DNA in the boots.
Okay, Dan.
Very important evidence.
The evidence was found 4 years after Gertrude was killed.
Yes.
Okay. And so it sounds like Mr. Spudis kept those boots.
Well, Mr. Spudis was incarcerated on his other burglaries in early of 14, so I think had he been out on the street a little longer, that evidence would not have been there. But he was incarcerated in early of 14, and then he continued to be incarcerated through 17 when we did our investigation, so there was no chance to get at that evidence.
Okay.
As I recall, there was quite a bit of DNA evidence of the girlfriend being present at the scene of the crime as well. Can you address her involvement, if any, in what happened?
I can't comment on that. Obviously, the investigation is ongoing into anybody else who might have been involved. If any of you were at the preliminary hearing, she did testify at that hearing, and she had previously cooperated with investigators and gave statements about things that had happened, but I can't comment further than that at this time. other than to confirm that, yes, there were a lot of items of evidence that were found in there that had her DNA on it.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.